Good afternoon. Welcome. Ideas can change the world, but only when combined with influence. This is a quote from Muhammad Yunus, one of our serial entrepreneurs, one of the most important in the world in terms of making the world a better place. He is the founder of Grameen Bank. At Indiana University, we are thinking about this quite a bit. What does it mean to solve the hardest problems? And what does it mean to then share those ideas with the wider world? My name is Julie Heath. I am the inaugural executive director of IU Innovates. This is the initiative at Indiana University to advance entrepreneurs, including our alumni. As we think through what it means for ideas to spread, I think panels like this, discussions like this are key, because the way ideas spread start here. It starts with you. It starts with our experts on how ideas spread. And so when we look at how ideas spread through the marketing lens, there's no better way than to talk to the people who do it every day. So with this, I will hand over the microphone to Brooke and Logan to pull back that curtain and share their wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to introduce
Hi, everybody.
yourself?
I'm Brooke Wyatt.
I'm Logan Watkins.
We're so happy to be here today to chat with you guys. This is so fun and exciting. Well, think about it like a nice, we're all friends, we're just getting to know each other, we're just chatting about influencer marketing and digital media. Like, how cool, right?
I love that. Brooke, I want you to tell them a little bit about your, okay, this is not the vibe. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool.
Yeah.
I want you to tell them a little bit about yourself and how you got into influencer marketing and social media and how you got your start.
Yeah. So I just graduated from IU Bloomington, and I majored in entrepreneurship and social media and digital applications. I loved college. It was so much fun. And now I live in New York City, which is so cool and exciting. I feel like I didn't wake up one day wanting to be a social media influencer. I feel like I've just had a passion for creating content for a really long time, and I wanted to be a YouTuber back in the day, and I feel like it started when I was young. My parents are here, and I feel like I always had a camera in front of me, and it was just something I was always really passionate about. So I've been doing social media, particularly TikTok, since 2021, and I met Logan, which we'll get into. I met her last year, and I was able to make it a full-time job as of last year. So, Logan, you need to tell them all about you.
Okay. This is echoing.
I can hear it echoing. Maybe I'll scoot away from you.
Yeah. Please go over there.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Again, my name's Logan Watkins. I'm a talent manager at Select Management Group. I represent Brooke, amongst other influencers, comedians, reality TV people, all of the things. And I met Brooke last year. I found her on TikTok, reached out to her, and wanted to start working with her. I thought her personality was super bubbly. I loved her content. I loved that she was educating her audience on all things college and what it's like to be a college girl, what it's like to be someone who was in a sorority and then wasn't, what it was like about to be graduating, moving to another city, makeup, beauty products. I thought all of it was really captivating. So reached out to her and started working with her. I got started in this business about 7-8 years ago. I went to film school, started my career in production, and then slowly made myself into the YouTube world, where I met different YouTubers, and I was really captivated by everything that they were doing on the influencer marketing side, working with brands, building businesses, and now I'm here.
Amazing. It's so cool, and we'll get more into what Logan and I do specifically, but I think we make a good team, and I'm really lucky to have Logan. So Logan, tell them a little bit about how management works, how we met, and kind of that story.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of talent are always asking that question. When is it time to get a manager? When is it time to get an agent, a publicist, all of the different things? How do I build out my team? And I always say to those talent who are looking, you will know when it's the right time when you can no longer manage your business on your own. So when you have so many inquiries coming in from different brands, when you have so many different things that need managed on your team, from taxes to you want to write a book, maybe you want to start a podcast, maybe you want to start a skincare line, maybe you want to go on a tour. Those are the times that you'll really look inward and start bringing on those people to your team. I know that a lot of talent out there are reaching out to different companies and trying to get signed, and maybe it's not the right time. I think this business really is all about time and kind of waiting for that moment and reaching out to those companies. And if it's not the right time, a manager will find you when that time is right, similar to Brooke. I know she had reached out to a few different companies before we had met, and it just wasn't the right time for her business. And then I found her, and I felt like that was the right time for her. In the last year of her career, her growth has been really linear, and she's really, shot up like this in the last year. And I know she was trying really hard before that, and I think, again, timing is really important in this industry.
Yeah, to give a little context on how I found Logan and kind of how the management process works, I want to say it was in 2022. I had a little bit of a following, but I feel like just being very authentic and organic with all of you, I think I wanted to say I had a manager more than I needed one. And I had reached out to lots of different agencies. I remember consulting my parents about this, and it just wasn't the right time. I didn't need one. I didn't have enough inbound, and it was more so a lot of companies were like, we would love to work with you, but you have room to grow even more on your own. And it was a really good learning experience and learning lesson, because I was able to cater to that and strategically grow my platforms, and then Logan came along. So I think there's a point in your career when you do work in social media where you need a team and you need help. And Logan knows more about certain things than I do, and vice versa. I do the content, and she does way more of the strategic business side of it. And when you put those two together, it makes such a great team. But I think having a manager, and I tell all my friends this that are seeking managers, I'm like, make sure it's the right one. Don't do it to say that you have one. Make sure it's a good fit. I think there's so many people that I know that have stories with their managers that it's just not the right fit or it's not the right time. And Logan and I, as much as it was business at first, like you're like the best, and I think that it goes hand in hand. So, I think that this was it was a good fit for the good time. It's all about timing.
Timing is, very important and key in this business. And Brooke, I want to ask you, now that you've been doing this for a year and you've been, going to these events and meeting these brands, what is the number one thing that you would say on how to catch brands' attention? How do you work with brands? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So if you don't know anything about influencer marketing, we're basically walking commercials. That is what it is. We're salespeople, and I think when you get into the space, it's all about posting products organically. That's how you really get to work with those brands. So I remember when I was just starting out, I would post organically and tag companies that I really, really loved, and that's how those turn into organic partnerships.
Yeah.
And I think even now, a lot of brands want to work with people that genuinely love the product, and that's kind of how it starts. And you are, as an influencer, a salesperson, and I think it's all about making connections with those brands. I have the opportunity in New York City to meet a lot of these brands in person, because it's funny, they're behind the email and we talk to them all the time, but then you meet them in person and they're like our age and they're cool and they're like the girly girls, like that girl on TikTok too. So it's when you meet them in person, they're the ones that have the power for paid collaborations or, events and stuff. And that's how you really meet those. That's where you're meeting those people. And I think it's all about making connections.
Totally. I think it's also understanding what a brand needs from an influencer.
Yeah.
So from a brand's perspective, the brands should be looking at the influencer's audience, right? So it's all about understanding who your consumer is. So if you're a beauty brand and you're looking for an ROI and you're really wanting to make sales on X products, you're not going to reach out, to a creator that maybe has an 80% male audience, because that male audience is likely not buying the mascara over a female audience.
Right.
So you really want to understand the back end, right? If you're an alcohol company, you're not going to reach out to an influencer where their audience is primarily 18 to 21, because those people can't legally buy alcohol. So you're really looking in that 24 plus range. So it really is, from a brand perspective, all about understanding the back end of that influencer and less about the influencer. Of course, the influencer is also important, but you are really trying to understand who your consumer is and where does that fall with different influencers by looking at their back-end metrics of, again, are you looking to target the US? Are you looking to target a specific state? Maybe you're looking for California, so you want to look at, okay, I'm trying to find an influencer who has a 90% audience in California versus a 90% audience in Missouri, right? Or whatever it may be. So again, from a brand perspective, the influencer is important, but also the back-end metrics of who's watching that content is equally important.
It's really fascinating too, because a lot of the times companies will have you as an influencer put in manually your metrics and how many views did you get? What's the engagement? There's so many things, and Logan can talk to this too. There's so many behind the scenes applications that do the ROI for you and do the engagement rates for you, because at the end of the day, I feel like, and Logan will probably touch on this, influencer marketing used to be really focused on your following count. And it's not about following a count anymore. It's more so your engagement. Like, how many comments are you getting? Are your followers really engaged with your content? Do they feel like they're on FaceTime with you?
Are they sharing it with their friends? Are they sending it to other people? Those things are really, really important. I think engagement is everything. I think in 2021, when TikTok really blew up, brands were throwing money at influencers who had millions of followers and not really understanding the engagement or those back-end metrics. And now brands have evolved and they really want to see that ROI. So they're really digging deeper into what is that engagement rate and what are those stats on the back end. I would say 90% of the brands that I work with, before they actually deploy the money to the influencer, they want to know what do their back-end metrics look like. They're asking for age range, they're asking for country, they're asking for gender. They want to see all of those things to kind of understand who they're targeting.
Yeah. Another question that we'll both discuss is, Logan, what are some of the challenges that you face in the influencer management space? And then I can kind of talk about some of the challenges for influencers, but I feel like we both can talk about that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that you face as a manager or agent would feel this way, or publicist, is guiding your client correctly, right? So maybe your client wants to work with a brand because the money is on the table and it seems like a really good idea from a monetary perspective, but that brand has really bad press right now, or they've not been the best brand forward facing, and you really want to guide your client on making the right decisions. And sometimes that can be hard whenever there's money involved. So I would say that's the biggest challenge. And then also helping talent understand when it's time to start a business versus not. I think a lot of clients come to me and they say, hey, I want to write a book. And I'm like, okay, where are the pages? Let's see, let's put pen to paper. What is the book about? I think a lot of times, I've had clients come to me in the past and say, hey, I just feel like I'm behind because I haven't started a makeup line.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but you don't post about makeup on your page. Like, you're a completely different type of creator. And they're like, I know, I just feel behind. And I think that's a huge challenge, is helping your talent understand that you're not behind. And again, it's all about timing, right? And maybe starting a skincare or makeup line isn't for everyone, or writing a book isn't for everyone. I think you have to dig deep and really see what value you want to bring to the table, and not just starting a business just to start a business and say you did it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really exciting to talk about new opportunities, because we'll talk about this later. Brand deals can only go for so long, and if I was an influencer and I was a mom, what's the next step? Because that's a complete niche change. Your target market's completely different. So I think it's cool to discuss, but it really truly is all about timing. And some of the difficulties that come with being an influencer, I think a lot of the times, if you're on TikTok, raise your hand if you're on TikTok. Yeah, okay, right. So you'll see influencers.
Raise your hand if you're not on TikTok and you're only on Instagram Reels. I'm very curious who you are.
Yeah, no, but we love both, right? Both are great. But I think we see people like Alix Earle, for example. You think she's an overnight success, and she's not. And she's been on the app for multiple years. I know all the girlies, we all know who Alix Earle is. But
those are her words, not ours. She was on the internet for a long time.
Right, and I think overnight success as an influencer is not, sometimes it's about timing, but I don't think it's a thing. I really think people get so much gradual linear followings, and it's not all about just overnight success. And when you see people like Alix Earle or really popular people like Charli D'Amelio blow up overnight, I think you're just now seeing them, but they've been working on the behind the scenes. I also think going off of that, just growth is slow and it takes time. And I think a lot of people ask me questions like, how do you become an influencer? What would you recommend? And I always say, the first thing I say is consistency is key. And if you're not consistent with it, and you're not gonna see success. It takes so much time. I've been doing it for 4 years. I feel like I've just now am starting to see some of those benefits, and I just think it's such a cool space to be in, but if you're not willing to put in the work and the time and consistency, that's why most people drop out of the game. And I think if you really want to do it, I always tell anybody can do it. You just have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to put your life out there.
Yeah.
And you cannot stop based on your views. You just need to be posting and posting and posting.
You also have to be able to evolve.
Yeah.
I think for all of us on TikTok, if you remember in 2020, it was all about dancing and trends, and brands were throwing money at that, and they're like, hey, put Crest white strips in your dance, and here's money, right? And I think that has changed. Now in 2024, it's all about talking to camera and being authentic and really making your followers feel like they're your friends and being a little bit more vulnerable. And there's less trends, less dancing going on, and it really is more vlogging. I like to say that I feel like
I do some dancing.
I like to say that TikTok is sort of becoming what YouTube was, just in short form. I also think TikTok as a platform is prioritizing long form content. They've now released 10+ minute videos. I was at a TikTok conference and they were saying that they're prioritizing videos that are a minute plus. So if you're making longer form content, they're going to push that into the algorithm more than 15-second content these days. So I think you have to also be able to evolve. So if you start 4 years ago, what you were doing 4 years ago on the internet can't be what you're doing today. You have to be able to move with the platform and move with what the consumer wants to see.
And how I was mentioning getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, when you put your life online, obviously that's really vulnerable, and that comes with people having like their own preconceived notions about you. And I feel like I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I feel like I used to take all of that very personal, but that's just part of the job. And I think hate is inevitable, and that's just part of being online, and people act like it's not a big deal, but it is. And mental health is such a huge thing that if you're online and you're seeing all of these comments come in, most of which are great, but you choose to focus on the 1% are bad, but you just have to persevere and not pay attention to them. I only read good comments, and I only interact with people that want to be on my page, and half the time I make jokes back to hate comments because I think it's funny. And I think that's another big thing that influencers struggle with that I don't think we hear about enough, is you have to be okay with people having their own stories about you, and that just comes with being vulnerable and putting your life online.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. I think that's a hard part too about being a manager, is making your clients feel okay when those things are happening. I always say, get out of the comments and never go to Reddit.
No.
Stay off Reddit.
Don't get on
number 3 words, stay off Reddit. It's a scary place.
I don't go on there.
Don't go there. But I think that's a hard part about being a manager, or again, agent, publicist, whatever it is. I think, clients are going to inevitably go through something like that as they get bigger, and I think you just have to remind them to see their value, look at the positive comments. You can't let the hate get you down, and you just have to keep going.
Another good question I have for you, Logan, is where do you see the biggest opportunities for brands in the influencer space as it continues to go on? Because the influencer space, I think, is very, the longevity of it I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
No, definitely not. It's only getting bigger. Companies are spending more money. Companies are spending less money on traditional ads. So you're not seeing as much being spent on TV ads. You're not seeing as much spent on billboards, I would say. Even TV ads, if you're on Hulu and you see an ad break, you might see a TikTok or two pop up that a brand is just running a TikTok. So it's very interesting, and that's something that we negotiate when we're doing these deals for paid usage, is where is this going? Is it worldwide? Is it going on TV? Are we limiting it just to social? Like, where are we letting this ad live, and what are we charging for that? So that's a huge part of the negotiation when doing brand deals with clients like Brooke. I think Sorry. I think the biggest opportunity for brands is looking for creators who are really connected with their audience, because those are the creators that are going to be able to generate that ROI, right? So no brand wants to spend $10,000 on a TikTok and see nothing come out of it. I think that's really hard, and that's why a lot of companies, especially companies that are just starting out, they don't want to deploy that budget because they're scared that they're not going to see that ROI, and they feel like it's a black hole. And that's a lot of conversations that I've had with brands are in that realm where they're really scared. So I think if you're a brand and you're starting out and you only have X amount of budget, is look for those creators that are really locked in with their audience. They have tons of comments. They have people in there asking them, hey, where do you get your skincare? Hey, I'm looking for this. You really want to target influencers if you're looking for an ROI that have those types of comments, are really locked in with their audience. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I feel like kind of what I was saying about the FaceTime, and you want to feel like that connection with your influencer. And I know, like, I have a list of influencers that I look forward to watching their content when I like get in bed at night and I'm like putting on Gossip Girl and watching my show. Like, I have girls that I want to watch because their content is comforting to me. And I think influencers serve a purpose, whether it's to put a smile on your face. Are they a comedian? Are they providing you a how-to? Like, it could be cooking. It could be whatever it is. My niche is lifestyle, so I just kind of post about what's going on in my life. A lot of it happens to be, I try to make it very relatable. If I'm hungover, I'll talk to you about that. Like, it's because that's just real. And I think that people don't want to see the overly curated lifestyle, going to Pilates every morning, like that, because that's not relatable anymore. And I think people want to see influencers that are just being real and authentic and just very upfront about what they're dealing with and what they're going through, or what does their morning look like, but it's not overly edited. And I think that that era of that is over. Would you agree? Shifting.
I think it's shifting. I think I see a lot of comments from people saying, like, I know Alex Earle living her life on a private jet in Italy isn't relatable, but I'm comforted by that. So yeah. I think it goes back and forth.
Depends on what content you want to see.
Totally. I think it all comes down, it's subjective to the person watching the content. So it's hard to say what people really do and really do not want. But I think as long as, like Brooke said, you're being authentic, you're, being truthful about your life, people can feel that through the screen. I always say to clients, don't try to be something you're not, because people can feel that, and they're not going to want to watch that. They're going to connect with you when they feel like, okay, this person is real. I feel like they're my best friend. If I saw them in public. I think that's what's so interesting. Young Hollywood had a variety party a few weeks ago, and I was talking to a few agents who were there, and they were like, it's so interesting because the paparazzi, they didn't even care about my A-list clients. They were taking photos of all of the TikTokers, and they were mesmerized by all of these people. And I think that influencer is, the new celeb. I mean, Alex Earle, she's everywhere, right? I think people are so fascinated by this digital space, and I think it's only growing more and more. And I think people are realizing that, and I think it's very interesting.
I think some of you will know who Emma Chamberlain is. I used to watch her videos when she was I think she was in San Francisco. I would consider her a celebrity now, but she started as an influencer. It's just very interesting to see the flip. And I've had these conversations with my dad before about influencers are the new celebrities, and I think that it's just very interesting.
And celebrities have started doing things that influencers do. So Kylie Jenner is a really good example.
Yes.
She's vlogging all the time now on her TikTok. She's being like just very silly and very herself, going to In-N-Out and showing herself in the drive-thru, which is something that maybe we didn't see from someone like Kylie 5-10 years ago, where everything was overly curated online, and her life still is great. I'm just saying that, like, online, we're not seeing, on Insta, we weren't seeing Kylie go through the drive-thru.
Right.
Whereas now we're seeing that. So we're kind of seeing that shift of these A-list celebrities going on TikTok and doing vlogs and kind of, doing the things that the influencers are doing. And I find that really interesting.
And I think it makes people, at least like myself, I want to watch more of it. Like when I see Kylie Jenner going through the In-N-Out in her car, like drive through,
It's
like
relatable.
It's relatable and it's funny. Like
We're all going to
she's
In-N-Out.
driving a Rolls Royce, so that's not relatable. But like but the idea of like, oh, she's just going to get fast food with her friends. Like we all do that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a very cool shift.
Yeah.
Right.
Very interesting.
Another question I have for you, Logan, in terms of consumer behavior, how do you think influencers impact the consumer behavior differently compared to traditional advertising?
I think it all goes back to that closeness that you feel to that influencer, right? So I'll take Brooke for example. If I'm watching Brooke's videos and I see that Brooke is gorgeous and has glowing skin, and I see that and she's like, look, this is an example of beauty filter on versus off, and I'm putting on this product, I think that is, oh my gosh, sorry. That is why people feel so connected to influencers. Again, they feel like if you're gonna buy a product and your best friend uses it, are you gonna call your best friend and be like, should I buy this $50 product? Yeah, you are.
Right.
You're not gonna be like, oh, I saw this on the Hulu show I was watching, no, you're gonna call your best friend. And I think that's why people love influencers, because they feel like they are their best friend, they can trust them, they're, seeing the beauty filter on and off. That's one thing I love about Alex Earle is she's been very open about her acne journey, for example, and she will show like, hey guys, filters off, this is what's going on, these are the products I'm using, and guess what? People are buying those products, and that's why those brands are spending the money with Alex, even on ads, to be like, they know that people are going to purchase and they trust her. So I think the biggest thing is that connection to audience versus just kind of seeing an ad. However, I do think in traditional advertising, if we see a Pizza Hut commercial come on the screen, we're probably going to get hungry, right? So I think it's just a different market, but both work.
I think, again, it's all about building trust with your audience and kind of segueing into engaging your audience and building that trust. I think always just being real and honest, because as Logan has mentioned, your audience can tell and they can see that. And there's been so many times where I've tried to batch content or just put stuff out there to put stuff out there, and it doesn't perform. Well, it doesn't perform because your audience can feel that. And I don't know how else to explain it, but when you see content online that you're not engaged with, it's not probably good content. And every content creator deals with that. We all get in funks where we don't know what to post, and putting things out there to make it viral or for the virality of it and to like hope that this does well isn't the right reason. If you're posting because you're genuinely excited about what you're posting, you love the content. I feel like the past couple of years I've been in Indiana, and being at college, I had great college content. Now I'm in New York City. It's like everywhere you go, there's something to film and talk about, and it doesn't feel inauthentic, because even the creator feels if it's inauthentic. And I think in terms of building trust with influencers, because as an influencer, you're still being influenced by other influencers. Like I, as an influencer, have favorite influencers, and I watch what products they're posting about. And I think taking the beauty filter off, talking about that, here's what's really going on with my skin, or here's what I really have been loving lately, and just organically posting, because I think people see that all the time. They're like, okay, well, they genuinely really do love this product. It's always in their videos. I use a lot of the same stuff. And if you were on my channel and you see my videos, I use a lot of the same products because I love them, and I usually tag the brand, and that's how a lot of those organic partnerships come along, because they're like, well, so-and-so loves our brand truly, they post about it all the time, this would be such a good fit for a paid opportunity.
Yeah, I also told her too when she moved to New York, I'm like, vlog that experience and the reality of moving to New York. I mean, when I moved to LA, it certainly wasn't easy, and there's so many challenges, and I know moving to a big city when you're young can be hard, and even when you are in the public eye and again, she met her realtor online, and a lot of the things in your apartment are partnerships and all of these things, but film the reality of how hard it was to actually find that apartment, because there are going to be people out there who are searching that online. How do I get an apartment in New York City, right? And they're going to find comfort in that content and education in that content. It's really important to bring value to your audience and be real with them. And while Brooke could totally make a vlog of like, my life is perfect and I live in New York City, which it is, and it's great, but like you also make, a video of those moments that aren't as easy, and I think that's helpful to people.
I have a good example of this. This happened a couple days ago. had a great day. It was awesome. I felt really blessed. I had a couple of events to go to, which I would have dreamed of going a couple of years ago. I would never get invited to anything, and now it's so cool because I get to meet all of these people. Anyway, so it was great. But then the next day, I was at my friend's apartment. There was a dead mouse in there, and that's just part of being in New York. But I filmed it because that's just the reality of living in a city, and like that's just part of it. And I think having that balance of like, here's what I do in a life, but here's also like what's happening in New York City, and like there's a mouse in our apartment, we had to get rid of it, like that. But it's like funny and it's relatable, and that's, people want to see that. And it's, I feel like I've had a big shift just personally, and I want my content to be uplifting and fun and relatable, and I try to throw a little comedy in there. Like I used to really want to dim down my personality because I wanted to fit in and fit a mold, and I'm not like that. I'm bubbly and funny, and that might not be for everybody, but I feel like one of the huge things if you're getting into influencer marketing is totally being yourself, because people can feel that.
Yeah, and I think you said earlier, people always ask, how do I get into this? How do I become an influencer? You really just have to start posting and post what you love and post what's authentic to you. And again, all about timing. The algorithm will take you there. You just have to start. And I think a lot of people get hate. And, you know, I've had clients just say to me, well, I don't want to post my TikToks on Instagram Reels because people from my hometown follow me there and they're going to make fun of me. And I'm like, well, when you're super successful, I don't think they're going to make fun of you. So like, just go ahead and do it. You know,
We all deal with that.
We have to take that risk, and maybe there are people out there who are going to judge us, but that's anyone in any life.
It's funny you say that too, because everyone says the same thing to me. They're like, I'm you know, concerned because I'm going to post about it and I'm going to get made fun of because the people in my hometown are going to see it. I want to block everybody in my hometown so they don't see it. I want them to see it. Like that's encouragement. I don't know. And I got so much hate, so made fun of, and that's just part of it, because anything that you do that's not normal, people are like, well, you're not doing the traditional path. Like, what are you doing? That's embarrassing. But and then you get successful, and they're like, all of a sudden they want to be friends with you. Like it happens every time. Every person will tell you that. But when you do something out of the normal and you get comfortable with the uncomfortable, if it was easy, everybody would do it. And I just think that it's very interesting, and it happens to everybody. I would make a case that almost every influencer goes through that phase.
Yeah, I think
once you get out of it,
every single person I've ever worked with, of just being like, people are making fun of me or I don't feel comfortable, and I think you just have to go for it and be yourself, and where, you know, the universe takes you is where you're supposed to go.
Exactly. Before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about the future of influencer marketing. Like I said earlier, this is a very huge industry that I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. And TikTok, I know that it's been around for a couple years, but it's a relatively new app. Like, I don't know does anyone remember Vine? Right, like, but Vine's not a thing anymore, and so many people don't know what Vine is, and TikTok came after that, and I feel like there's just a huge shift in some of the social media marketing, and it's really cool to see how that's changing. So I don't know, what would you touch on that?
Yeah, I think, again, I said this a little bit earlier, I do think TikTok is evolving every day. TikTok is now really into live streaming as well. So I don't know if you guys have ever watched a live stream on TikTok, and I'm not necessarily just talking about a creator live streaming, but businesses have started live streaming on TikTok. And I think TikTok had their first $1 million live stream, I think it was 2 months ago, where a creator went on with their business and they live streamed for 7 hours and they made $1 million in revenue from sales. So it's very interesting. I think TikTok is getting into live streaming, again, long form content. TikTok themselves does a lot of paid usage on the platform with brands, not just what influencers are doing, but as a company themselves. And I think there's definitely a future on TikTok, and I think they're just going to keep adding these different features and different ways to make revenue. I think Instagram and YouTube are OGs, and they're also never going away. So yeah, I think I don't know how to say it, but basically I just don't think it's ever going away.
No, I don't either, and I think it continues to shift and grow, and I think part of being in influencer marketing is being able to adapt and grow as the trends do.
Yeah.
I think that it changes so much, and I know that we all see that online. I think because of TikTok, a lot of our attention spans are a lot shorter. Like when I get on YouTube, I can't watch a whole video anymore because TikTok is like 60-second videos. And I think it's funny because, as Logan touched on earlier, TikTok's trying to engage with more of the long form content to get back to that relatable vlog style, longer videos. And I just think that'll be interesting and in the next couple of years of how that plays out. And I think more people getting back into YouTube. History repeats itself, and I think YouTube is a huge thing that's still around, that is, you know, still super popular, but I think that we haven't even seen the excitement of like what's to come.
I read this article a little bit ago that said people were watching movies on TikTok through different clips.
Oh, yeah.
So there are these creators who will stream 50-part series of Mean Girls. And
Yeah.
I read this article that so many people are watching movies through these short clips instead of going on Netflix and watching the movie. And I find that so fascinating. Like, people want to be on their phones. They want to be on TikTok. They love the lore of the app. They want to look at the comments while they're watching the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that TikTok is the future, and I don't think that it's going anywhere, and I think
No.
the possibilities are endless.
No, influencer marketing is not going anywhere, and it's exciting to see what comes in the future.
Yeah, you want to open it up to the audience?
We have a couple minutes left, so we'll open it up to Q&A, but thank you guys so much for coming and listening and chatting with us. This was so great. Yay! Yeah.
Do we have a stage mic?
As a mom and a business owner, right?
Yeah.
You say TikTok's not going anywhere, but like with the legal stuff going on.
Right.
What would you say for someone who's like trying to hop back into it? Should they start more on TikTok? You back on YouTube, Instagram?
Never put your eggs in one basket. I've had fabulous advice from Logan. As much as TikTok is my big platform, post on YouTube, post on Instagram Reels. Don't put your eggs in one basket. I would 100% encourage you to get on TikTok, because who knows what's going to happen with that. Post. But then take those TikToks, recycle them, and put them on YouTube Shorts, and then put them in Instagram Reels. Just on all the platforms. That's what you should be doing. Is that what you would say? Probably?
I think don't get discouraged. Again, I can't speak on the matter necessarily because I'm not a TikTok lawyer. But I think we don't know what we don't know. We
Yeah.
do. I know it is really scary. That's the question everyone is asking me, is what's going on with the lawsuit and everything. But I think we just have to see how it plays out. And again, knowing that if something did happen with TikTok, worst case scenario, Instagram, YouTube, they've been around for a long time. People are not going to stop consuming content because
No.
something happens with TikTok. They're just going to go find their favorite creator on another platform. So just make sure that you're posting on all platforms, but keep posting on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling
knocking
positive,
on
like
wood,
nothing
I
will
hope it
happen.
doesn't go away, but you're killing
Yeah,
it.
I
girl.
think just keep posting on all platforms, and that's really all you can do.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
I coach several women business owners.
Where are we? Oh, okay.
And
Sorry.
many of them are younger, but even in our mid 40s. One thing that I get asked all the time is, I'm buying all these things, so I'm working on budgets with them. You can't go in debt
Right.
in order to do this. But if you were to think of the brands that are most likely to be picking up new influencers, what would those be? Is it Temu? Is it, what kind of bigger brands are going to be looking for more influencers?
Interesting. I think that the brand, it's a really hard question because I think a lot of people spend in influencer marketing right now. So I don't think that there's a certain niche. I guess, is your question more so you're trying to advise these business owners on if they should invest in influencer marketing?
No, they're wanting to be
Okay.
in the influencer. And so they're going out spending where they don't have the money to do so.
Right.
And so they're going into debt. So I want them to focus on certain brands that might be more likely to pick them up.
Oh, okay, I see. So the people that you're working with want to be influencers. I'm curious, when you say they're spending with brands, what do you mean by that?
Well, that could be, so say I shop at Old Navy.
Okay.
Then I'm going and I'm spending all this money hoping that Old Navy will pick me up.
I see what you're saying.
I see what you're saying.
But they're going in debt.
Yeah, I think that's a tough question. I think it depends on where they're at in their career. if they're a micro influencer and they have, a few thousand followers, they can always be DMing those brands,
Yeah.
and it can be any brand, and seeing if that brand would be willing to gift them and send them products and saying, hey, X brand, I love your brand, I would love to work with you. I would love it if you could send me, X product, and I'd be willing in exchange to make an Instagram reel for you and tag, your brand. I think that's something that they could do. Again, that's subjective to how many followers they have. I can't promise that the social media managers behind those brands would actually send product, but that's an avenue that they could look at. I do think that what you're saying is very common, though, that people will go out and buy products to make videos with, and that's something that I've seen before as well on a smaller scale. But
I used to do that too.
Yeah.
Because you want to get that exposure, you want to connect with those brands, but I think don't go into debt. Like I think reach out to those brands personally. What I would do, I literally 2 or 3 years ago would wake up every single day. I would batch emails. I would sit there for hours and just email every social media marketing agency, every company, every PR, head of PR, like I would not stop until I got a yes. And that's my biggest piece of advice. You don't need to be buying stuff. You just need someone's gonna say yes. You're gonna get 1,000 no's before you get a yes, but you don't need to be going out to like Sephora or Old Navy, spending hundreds of dollars, because at the end of the day, that probably isn't gonna, the ROI, like that usually doesn't work because it's so oversaturated now. And I think it's all about tagging those brands organically multiple times. You can wear the same outfit multiple times, and here's how to style it. You don't need to keep going out and buying.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting you say that, because I think a lot of people do that, and I think that's part of the process. But yeah.
And I always say, if you can't get in through the front door, go through the chimney. So if you can't, if you can't reach someone on DM, look what Brooke did, and find those emails and find those LinkedIns, and don't stop until you find that person and get that yes.
Yep. Who has the mic? There we go.
We'll get to you.
We'll get to you guys. We'll get to you.
So I know that you were talking about when you were starting off, you were trying to be authentic to yourself and your own content.
Yeah.
So I do social media managing for other people.
Yeah.
And so do you have any tips of since it's not myself, how to grow their platforms and stuff?
Oh, that's a good question, Logan. I don't know,
I can't speak to that as much, because I as a manager, people always I think that I'm logged into my clients' social media, or post for them or do any of that, and that's not really my role. But I would say queuing into trends, especially on TikTok, or making comments on influencers' pages, all of those good things. I think I see a lot of social media. I think I had a client make a video the other day that was it's so funny how every social media manager for every brand comments on videos now. You'll make a video crying over a boy, and Pringles will be like, hey girl, don't get sad. It's just so interesting that these brands are doing that. And he made that video and it went mega viral, and every single brand out there, social media manager, was commenting on it. And I think that's a way, is leaning into trends, making comments. I think that's really the best way to grow, is the trends.
The trends are good too, because it pushes the content out, and then commenting pushes the engagement. So it goes hand in hand.
Okay, I think we have time for
we had some people.
more
We had
questions.
the front row over here.
And
But we'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards too.
Hi, I have 2 questions really quick. Number 1, what was your first brand deal, and how long did it take you to get it?
Oh my gosh. I will never forget, I forget the company, but I was literally with my dad, and I got a PR package from a health and wellness company, and I about lost my mind. I was so excited. But I don't feel like it took me that long, because I reached out to every brand I could think of, and I feel like micro influencers now even post on TikTok, literally the emails for you to email. I think it's all about consistency and doing the hard work at the beginning, but it didn't take me that long, because I just wouldn't stop until I got a yes. So yeah.
And the second question is, how do companies justify, you were talking about the ROI, and I know you're not exactly the brand, but I know that they're really concerned with engagement. How do they justify that $10,000 spend? How does it translate for sales to them? How are they going to, for instance, I run a couple of brands, and how am I going to go to my boss and justify an influencer spend when I can not guarantee sales, but how can it translate to physical dollars that the brand can justify that spend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, it's subjective to the brand, because some brands are going to take that risk, right? I think more and more we see brands dialing back on that risk. I think that, again, they're looking for those creators where the engagement is super high. That's what you're looking at. I think also they'll look into that paid usage where they're boosting the content to different, they're geo-targeting it to the markets that they want as well. I think at the end of the day, I always say as a manager, I can't make a consumer click purchase, but I can help get your consumer to the page that you want, right? Through, again, link in bio, all of these things that these influencers are able to do. But at the end of the day, an influencer is not able to get that consumer, is not going to be able to get that consumer to hit purchase, right? Maybe that consumer needs to wait for their next paycheck to come and they come back 2 weeks later and they didn't use her link in bio, so that's not trackable, right? Like there's all kinds of different factors to cue into, but I do think it is a little bit of a risk, but I think if you're looking and targeting the right influencers, that ROI will be there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll stick around for a few minutes right over here if you have any questions, but thank you guys so much.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. Wait, go ahead. There you go.
Okay, so my question is, I love that you guys were talking about authenticity, which is very important, but can you muddy the waters by posting about too much? Like, let's say I like skincare, but I also like to cook, and I also like to do yoga. Is that too much, or do you think that is muddying what you're trying to put out, or that's more authentic?
I always tell clients to be strategic, but don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Post what you love to post. If you want to post about going to yoga and you want to post about skincare and you want to post about, I don't know, anything you want, post about it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's muddying the waters. I think you can maybe post about one subject like way too much where the audience is no longer engaged. But I think, again, if you're being yourself and being authentic, then people are going to come back to the content. I think, look at beauty influencers, for example. In 2020, there were a lot of beauty influencers who were specifically just posting get ready with me makeup routines. And now we see the Alex Earls that blew up because of doing that. We're seeing her vlog more. We're seeing a different kind of side of her. So I think you always have to be evolving and kind of mixing things in, but don't be scared to take risks.
I also think when you do that, when you do tap into a new niche, you never know, like, that could lead to a whole nother follower growth. Like, I have food allergies and I've posted about that, and I didn't think that would do anything, and it would completely open the door for a whole nother group of people. And so I would say don't overthink it. Post what you want, because at the end of the day, your social media platform, even though if you want to make it a full-time job, you have to cater to the audience, but it's your social media platform.
Yeah.
Like, you post what you want to post, what you love, and the right people will come.
Agreed.
That's what I would say.
Hi, ladies.
Hello.
I do have a question.
Yes.
That I actually have. I'll touch on an answer to a couple of questions that have been asked, if that's okay. I don't want to overstep. So I have a merchandising background. I was a buyer at Macy's. I was over a team of buyers at REI. And so in terms of answering your question about how can brands track beyond sales metrics, so from a digital landscape, there's a lot of KPIs that are looked at. So impressions, which are traffic, which are the number of people that come to the website. We can track how many people clicked that landing page. So if we did hire an influencer, obviously we know the dates that the person is going to be promoting the product. So they would just compare and contrast what was the lift to these different KPIs versus a standard day in comparison.
Yeah, like I'll touch on that. I'll give an example. I have a friend who is head of marketing at a makeup brand, and they sent out a product to an influencer. That influencer posted organically. They didn't realize that she was going to, and she has a lot of influence in the makeup world. She posted this foundation organically late at night. They woke up the next morning. It's a smaller company, and they had $20,000 in sales more than they were supposed to. And they were like, it came from her. Like, there was no way to actually know, besides the fact it went crazy viral, and this person is one of the biggest makeup influencers in the world. And she had never posted with their product before, and right when she did, they had the 20 grand in sales overnight, and it was so crazy. So again, you can track like exactly what you said, kind of that timing. And we always do, for different brands that Brooke works with, we'll do a code, right? So it'll be like Brooke 15. When they go to purchase, they'll type in Brooke 15, and then they can track how many people used her code, how many people clicked her link on Instagram stories. You can swipe up and see like, okay, I posted this for Dove and I put the link and 500 people clicked the link. A lot of brands will come to me and say, hey, we're looking for an ROI here, so we're only actually looking for influencers who have over 1,000 clicks on every single frame. You can send in all of those metrics as well, just like she said.
Um, and perhaps for, I'm not sure if the young lady is still here who had the clients who want to be influencers. It's a little harder to reach the actual decision makers at major brands and major retailers. There's a ton of gatekeepers. So perhaps focusing on smaller businesses to build that audience so that you can approach those major brands once they do have a larger following. That's an easier sell in that conversation at that point. And so you can get free products or discounted products from those small businesses because they're looking to build that audience. So there's an quid pro quo, right? It's more easy to understand something for something in those exchanges. Okay, to my question. Sorry, I'm like taking
No, I
over your
love it.
presentation. Is so for the business owners or for entrepreneurs who might be interested in hiring influencers,
Yeah.
what do you think is the best way to find those influencers if we are not heavily into social media? We don't particularly care, but we know that our customers care,
Totally.
right?
There's a lot of platforms out there that do this exact thing, so you can type in exactly what you're looking for. Again, I'm looking for US, I'm looking for 35 plus. I'm looking for females who post about skincare. You can type all of these things in. You can type in hashtags. You can type in all of these geo-targeting metrics to kind of find. And what you can do, there's a company called Grin that does this, and it will essentially build you a list of influencers in all of those different filters. And I always tell clients, make sure your email is in your bio, because these different platforms pull all of that data and pull a list of influencers and will automatically pull up their email as well. And you can do a drip campaign as a brand. And you can send an email blast essentially to all of those people saying like, hey, I'm X brand. If you're interested in working with me, like, let me know. And I think that's a really great way is maybe you know nothing about social media, but you know what you're looking for in your consumer. And you can type all of these metrics in and figure out what influencers match what you are looking for and reach out to those influencers.
Grin. So Grin, not just like Googling this, but actually going to.
I don't think if you Googled it, you'd be able to do it. You should use one of those platforms, which obviously you do have to pay for those platforms, but there are really a lot of
They're
great
helpful.
resources out there. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
We'll hang over here if you guys have any more questions. But thank you guys so much for coming. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Yay.